Welcome everyone to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack. And you know what? Why are we kidding ourselves? You're just gonna keep regifting it. It's our Impact Attack. So we'll just keep it this time. You know, as you guys had your receipt, you know, your gift receipt, whatever. So we'll take it back. But
You know, how many times? Yeah, it's how many, like a month and a half after the holiday season. How many times can you return the same gift?
I'm telling you, but they've been doing it even since like I don't know how long we've been saying this. They keep giving it back. But you know what? We give back to the people that give back. And who's we? I'm Jamie the Vet Williams, joined as always by my tag team partner Brandon. Brandon, say hello to the people.
Hi, diddly ho there, neighborino.
And I'm very excited to bring in a third person that from the PWC network. Now, he is your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. And since I'm everybody's favorite podcaster, that means I got the right guy. Say hello to Chris Ames. Chris, what's up?
Thanks, Vet. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. You invited me on, and I jumped at the chance to be on this show. I listened back to last week's episode, and I loved it. I loved listening to the intro as I was watching, and I just thought, they should really change these lyrics to "We Own the Lights." God. But we'll get into that a little later. I'm Chris Ames. That's AMBS, like lambs with no L. Bullshit in the morning. You know me, and if you don't, then check me out on the PWC, or I'm on a number of things. I do Rampage Uncaged for Channel Attitude, and I'm generally pretty awesome. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, he's right. He's also a Canadian from Canada, in case you couldn't tell from listening to him. And who better to bring on to review a Canadian company doing Canadian things? Now, we already discussed at the top. I'm sorry to spoil it for the people that didn't watch the episode. This episode features no Moose whatsoever. Barely a mention of Moose. He might have been in like a highlight clip of something to nothing to do with anything. It's okay. It's okay, Brandon. It's okay. He'll come back once taping. But we do have, we had somebody in the chat that actually got to meet Moose this past week. Scott Woodford, who checked in before almost anybody. You can't beat Canada Spaceman to the chat, but he did come in second to say that Moose is awesome, which we all knew, and he knew that we knew, but he wanted to let us know because now he knows firsthand how awesome Moose is. And I told him, be sure to let Moose know about what should be his favorite podcast, The Impact Attack, and how much we all love him over here. We used to call it the Moose Moose, but unfortunately he stopped showing up so often that it kind of forced us to change the name on the fly. So very unfortunate. But speaking of the chat, Brandon, should we acknowledge these motherfuckers or what?
Let's acknowledge the sluts in the chat. We got Canada Spaceman. We got Scott Woodford, of course, who got to meet Moose. Buckshot Kid. Hatebot. Yeah, pal.
Ding dong.
Avi Uchida.
That's who we got so far. I'm sure some other people will be joining and filing in as they take their seats as we get rolling here. But but this is going to be interesting because not only because we have a third man in the booth, but because we have a few deviations from the norm, a few foreign talents. Not necessarily, I don't mean that in terms of internationally, even though they are, but also just like they're not really Impact regulars. So we'll kind of get into that. But before we have to suffer through any of that other stuff, just a little more get to know you, Chris, I guess, just to throw this out there. We talk enough about wrestling. We don't get to talk enough, in the world. Brandon and I are both, Twitch streamers, so we know a thing or two about playing games and stuff like that. What have you been playing lately?
Lately, actually, I've been playing the new NHL game, NHL 23.
All right, let's
They
cut this off. Let's cut this off. All right, Impact for February 2nd. No, just kidding. Just kidding, of course. Okay, NHL 23. Is it good?
Yeah, NHL 23. Yeah, they've made some improvements to franchise, which is sort of what I like to play. I don't really like to play online, mostly because I don't have any desire to play with 12-year-old children who tell me how they fuck my mother. So I play
Give
franchise
your balls a
when
tug.
yeah. So I play franchise, and they've made some little improvements that have just sort of made it a little more enjoyable. Um, what else have I been playing? That's really it lately. Oh, I've been replaying Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, good Lord. Once wasn't enough?
No,
Jesus.
no,
You
it's a
ca-
fun game.
yeah, I mean, look, the amount of time it's going to take to do this episode is how long it takes you to pick up a can of beans off a shelf in that game. So I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and let anybody espouse the time sink that is Red Dead Redemption 2. Obviously, it's one of the most popular games of all time, but replaying it, that's amazing. Have you checked out the God of War Ragnarok?
Yeah, it's great. I like it. I really love the story so far. Obviously, like being like half German and my family being sort of worshippers of Woden and Thor and that. Yeah, I love it. It's great. Always love watching that kind of stuff. And the gameplay is kind of what the gameplay has been for God of War games. It's just kind of fun to see button, mash button, see thing happen on screen. But the stories have been really, really interesting, and over the last maybe 2, 3 games from God of War, I think, and yeah, it's been great.
All right. Well, there you go. That's what we've been playing. Well, Brandon, you've been playing World of Warcraft, so I'm sure your raids they've been going as planned. You've been getting a lot of nice loot.
Yeah, well, I got 3 of my best in slots the other day, so not too bad.
All right. Okay. And as for me, I've been playing that Dead Space remake, and I never played the original Dead Space, so I don't really have the context for it. But playing through this new version of it, I'm just kind of like, maybe it's not fair because the game's like probably 10 years old or whatever originally, but I'm just kind of playing it, and I'm not into the story. I'm not getting scared by it, and there's a lot of frustrating control issues that I don't like. So I'm having a hard time enjoying it. But maybe people on Twitch enjoy me not enjoying it. I don't know. So
That's not a great review. I don't like the story. It doesn't scare me, and it plays like shit.
Yes, not good. But hey, if you like if you see, hey, there was literally a scene where I walk in this room, and there's like all this this biological goo all over the place, and I'm like, okay, well, these guys have seen Aliens, they know what's up, James Cameron fans here. So anyway, yeah, it's that kind of thing, kind of derivative, a little bit. Yeah, well, whatever. Enough. But speaking of not that good and derivative, we're going to move into the February 2nd, 2023 episode of Impact Wrestling. And we're kicking it off with another video game reference, Bullet Club versus Time Splitters 2, I'll call them. How about that? This is Ace and Bay versus Kushida and Kevin Knight. So, but Chris, you're the guest, and I'm going to start off with you. Evaluate the talent that you see in this match, because I think a lot of these guys probably don't come across your desk too often.
Nope, I don't see these guys super often. Let's see. It was a really nice cruiserweight match to start. Cruiserweight tag match, and yeah, I mean, all of these guys seem to be pretty good at doing flippy stuff. The problem is I know 100 other talents from 100 other places who are really good at doing the flippy stuff. So it's hard to stand out. Now, I will say that Chris Bay seems to have some character. His facials are good. He seemed to stand out a little bit in this match. And Kushida is very, very talented physically. I mean, the guy can do stuff that's just incredible. But but I don't really see how any of these guys can really elevate past where they are right now. I don't really see any of these guys main eventing any big shows. I don't really see these guys getting to a point where they can become world champions anywhere, really. So yeah, that was sort of my impression. Was really good opening cruiserweight match. These are guys who you could have on any roster. They seem to all be able to put together a match well. But in terms of like elevating, or are these guys who I can see moving up the card? Not really.
Okay. Interesting points there that I'll try to get to in a second. Brandon, what did you see during this match? I mean, we kind of get a format every week. We understand what Impact's going to do. They're gonna give you like a nice wrestling match to start the show, and then they'll devolve into bullshit from there. But they kind of do want to establish, hey, here's something. Here's a cold open match, and then we'll get into the other stuff. So, for that, I thought it was fine. But, what did you think? Did you notice anything here?
I just kept thinking back to what Al Snow always says is like, what are you trying to sell to the audience, that the intent you're trying to win the match? Well, the intent that I got that they were trying to sell is, hey, look at all this cool shit we can do.
Okay.
And the finish was at least a decent finish, but like they could have cut out so much of the, let's go ahead and call it masturbatory moves, get your shit in, that just to get there.
Okay. All right. Well, so Chris watches AEW mostly when he does his reviews. So he's used to seeing nice cruiserweight matches regardless of the weight. So I know that I would have thought that he would have felt a little bit more. I thought this match was like a little bit more toned down than what these guys would normally put on if they were really trying to show off. It really did seem like they're setting an opening match pace. However, who knows where this match took place in the taping schedule? That's the thing that you always have to consider when you're watching these, knowing that like these people in the crowd have been sitting there for, who knows how long at that point, and what they've already seen, and which is going to come into play in something else that comes up later. I'm going to mention then. So yeah, but for this one, this specific one, I would have liked to seen more tags early. So like if I'm putting a tag match, wherever it is on the card, or especially if, I'm editing, and I'm gonna say, okay, well, this is gonna be the start of a show one week. I want to see them establish those tags. Like it had like a very short singles match at the beginning, with Kevin Knight and Chris Bay, I think it was, and no one tagged in for like a couple of minutes. So, I always like to get those tags in. That's how I was taught. And the kid Kevin Knight is to answer Hatebot, who may actually be Conor McGregor, because he says, who the fuck is Kushida's new partner and why do I care? Well, so Kevin Knight is part of the, I guess the American branch of the Young Lion program. So he's the guy that's going to be, he's tagged up with Kushida in Junior Tag League. So he got his tour of Japan there, taking all the falls, and he's going to come back to America, and he's going to be doing stuff with New Japan Strong, probably taking a lot of the falls. So he's here to take the fall again. That's how their system works. You get humbled on the come up, you become who you're going to be. And then when you're an established star, but it's past your time, you end up putting everybody else over and helping them on their come up too. That's the trajectory of a Japanese athlete. Which is actually a great system. I think we should adopt it. Well, they're trying, because they have their own American version, and Kevin Knight's in it. So not right now, he's in that transition where you're going to lose enough times that they're going to want to see you win, and then when you finally win, it means something. That's part of the, that's for the fans aspect of the Young Lion, the dojo system. For the workers aspect, it's just to, check your attitude, I guess. That's basically how they break them in. And the kid's got some hops. And everything else, like we saw that drop kick, like he jumped and grabbed the guy off the top with the Rana off the top rope, and then he also does he puts him on the shoulders and he does the drop kick and stuff like that. So he can do that, but unfortunately, because of his career, it is not his night, and Ace finally hits the fold. Not his night with a K, and Ace hits the fold for the win, and that's that. Anything else? Hi, the vet. Did you get my moose picture from the cruise? I sure did, Scott Woodford. I sure did, and it was great. And it's the only moose that we got this week. So, yeah. Anything else on this that you guys forgot to say before we move on? No.
Not really. Yeah. I mean, just to sort of reiterate, like, it's nice that people are able to do physically impressive things, but like Elix Skipper did impressive things. He never, never made a dime. I like there are people who are very physically capable. You need to figure out how to stand out, though. You need to figure out how to do something with character. As far as the placement on the card, I really liked it too. I like starting with a tag match. I actually think that starting with a quick tag match, especially if you can, I just watched, I watched Dynamite already since I watched this, and I mean, you're having matches where you're starting off where the guy's bleeding, he's going through a table, and there's this and there's that, and they're going 100 miles an hour, and they're doing everything so that by the time they actually get to the main event where there's supposed to be a table spot and blood, it doesn't mean fuck all anymore because you've already done that. So if you can start off your show with a really quick, really simple tag match like this, I actually really like it too. So I was happy to see that, and I think that the booking of the show overall is actually pretty top notch. Like, I actually think that regardless of what you think about like the talent or who's able to actually get across the stories, the booking of those where, at least on the TV, really works. Now, that might not be happening live, but on the TV, it really worked for me, at least this week.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Brandon? I find it very digestible as well compared to the other wrestling shows on television.
That's definitely one of those things that Impact does get right, and if like WWE got that right, that's one of those things that would make their show just so much better and easier to watch.
If WWE got it right, or if Impact had any money, we might
right,
have. We're just not quite. We're not quite there.
Right, yeah, one side missing some of the pieces and the other side missing the other pieces.
Right. Well, nobody has a perfect show, but it wouldn't be fair then. So the design and Callahan, this is where Diener kind of, what would you say? He explains a little bit more about his 7-step process for Callahan to be a part of the design, and because his steps 3 and 4 are very specific to the matches they're having, and he seems like he's making these steps up as he goes, then how do we know there's only 7 steps total? Like, how does he, do you just come up with is this like the 7-minute abs thing from Something About Mary that the Harlan Williams hitchhiker comes up with? Like, he's just going to figure out how it works later. He's just got the concept first. So, I mean, I don't know. All this stuff is, I think it's ridiculous. But Brandon, you see it every week too. So, I mean, this is just more of the same stuff, right?
This faction seems lost. Like they did have a chance for like a rebirth with Diener taking over and making it into something new and him getting a new character and playing things differently, but it just seems like DOA just like Honor No More was, whereas like that could have been something that was like a month in just dead.
Yeah, this is just everything else. This is just Violent by Design again. All right, but so that's why this is why it's important to have Chris here, because with a fresh set of eyes, you can judge things just based on on their face, on the surface of what they're presenting. So I want to see what you saw in this, especially since you love Diener. so much.
Yeah, Diener's actually one of my favorite talents. The last time that I really watched Impact regularly was probably about 2 years ago now. He was still in a tag team at the time. Um, uh, but I really think that he's a talented guy. Watching him, he seems to hit his marks well, and he seems to know what he's supposed to say. He seems to get the character that they want him to play. The problem is, I mean, they're doing another cult in wrestling. I mean, how many cults do we have to have in wrestling? What is I mean, Vet, you're a professional wrestler. What the hell is wrong with your people that there are so many cults in professional wrestling? Um,
Um, like Mussolini. uh, yeah, a lot of cults. There's even one of the Mark Chaels is called Cultaholic.
like, uh,
Yeah.
but yeah. So the
And we
the
said,
thing. The thing with any faction, the thing with any, especially if you're going to do this dark, sinister character type stuff, you have to, you have to be threatening, and then you have to back it up. You have to actually win the matches. You have to win the important matches. Otherwise, people get it in their head that you're not actually impressive. You're not actually a threat. I've equated this before, with AEW talents and stuff like that, to the introduction of, let's say, Bane in the Batman universe, right? Bane became a big deal. He's considered to be one of like the lower high grade villains for Batman, and he was able to do that very quickly. And the reason he was able to do that very quickly is that one of the first things he did was he broke Batman's back. And basically put the original Batman out of commission for 6 months or whatever. Like, you do something impressive, and then you can get over with that character. But if you're coming out talking about, we're going to change everything and you're going to bow to us, and then you lose all of your important matches, you're just a joke. It's funny. It's like you basically become the Penguin, and everybody just goes, look at this guy.
Yeah.
right, the
Well,
logical choice for that 6-shooter last week would have been Callahan, but they went with Swan.
right. Right. Yeah. Well, important thing to note, Bane, professional wrestler. So, and in the Christopher Nolan movie, started a cult. So, so yes. And also in Batman's defense, he had the flu. And when he came back, when he healed and came back, he fucked Bane the hell up.
Great storyline, by the way. If anybody
Yes,
out there
Nightfall.
hasn't read
Everybody
Nightfall,
go read Nightfall.
it's awesome.
Yep. Let me tell you. So we get this thing that tells us that Steph DeLander debuts next week. This would be a great spot for the Conan. Who? I'm sorry, who? I don't know who this is. Who is this? No, you don't know, Brandon. No, nobody knows.
This would have been a great spot for like a Val Venus vignette to just like see who this person is.
Yes. Yeah, maybe she could be blowing Val Venus. I don't know. Whatever. Like a hot tub with Val Venus.
That's how you get over. I mean,
That's right. It's like, maybe not these days, but
Well, then again, the last time I tried to do vignettes to explain a character of Killer Kelly, it was just like,
wait,
what is this? We still don't know.
We still don't know, and we're gonna get a vignette, and we still aren't gonna know tonight. But all right, whoever she is, she's on somebody's radar, which we'll mention in a second. But before that,
Oh, did you notice where the designer having their promo at?
where at the
In front of the interview set that was just turned off.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yep.
man. Okay, nice. But they made sure to set up their their little red lights and
Oh yeah.
and everything too, just to, you guys aren't gonna be using this, so we'll just turn on our lights. So Hatebot says asking Impact to develop a character like Dark Knight Rises is like throwing fastballs at a catcher without a mitt. Well, he's not wrong. So Giselle Shaw versus Savannah Evans, where we get the insert promo where Savannah's calling Shaw the Black Widow, which is perfect for Chris because He hasn't been watching this shit, so he wouldn't have known that she keeps breaking up tag teams, but now Savannah's explained it. They have their match or whatever. Giselle rakes the eyes on a distraction. The old jump up by Jay Vidal. He jumps up, starts to strip tease. Referee's like, hey, I don't want to see that shit. And then she rakes the eyes, super kick, knee, 1, 2, 3. Giselle goes over. And she says she doesn't care who is gone because of her. She's, she's the quintessential diva and all this other stuff. So, this is like a fully contained segment from start to finish. Chris, this is your first time probably seeing this individual. So, again, I'm going to need a talent evaluation from you here.
It's so hard to judge female wrestling sometimes. The first one, the first comment that I had, honestly, and I'm not being silly, I'm not being funny, was Giselle born a woman?
No.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Just something that struck me as I was watching. I was like, I don't know, but maybe not. Cool. The talent-wise, they didn't seem to screw too much up. They weren't stepping on each other's toes or anything. The finish was a good, solid heel finish. Distraction on the outside leads to a finish for the heel. That's how it's meant to be done. Tony Khan, please take notes, because, this is something that I've been harping on AEW for forever. How many times do we see a distraction on the outside, babyface still goes over? How many times do we see a weapon gets used by the heel, babyface still goes over? That's not how the story's meant to be told.
I like that you said that, because it's very important that you realize that the psychology of Tony Khan is just that he's doing the things you don't expect. He thinks, I will do the opposite of what you expect. However, you have to still sometimes do the other thing, the traditional thing, just so people know that it's the opposite of what you expect. You can't subvert everybody's expectations if that becomes the new expectation. So you have to mix it up.
Create an expectation in order to subvert it. You
So
can't
now-
just constantly be doing random shit.
So now when somebody actually wins with a distraction finish, it's gonna blow the roof off the place, right?
I know. As soon as that happens, hey, I'll come back on here and I'll talk about it. But
Yeah, but it hasn't. Yeah, Savannah's one of those people that brought in as the monster, the heavy, and then just loses all the time. Not protected, not in a position to protect yourself. I don't imagine that the politics of Impact are such that everyone can easily navigate. You'd think that you'd be able to maybe stick up for yourself a little bit more, because they, I would say they need any talent they can get, but they keep finding people and bringing them in and paying them something. So, maybe not. So I don't know if she's ever been in that position to where she could be like, I just don't think my character would lose or do this, or maybe how about this? I don't know if she feels like she can politic there. But there's something to her. She calls herself the Cannibal. She doesn't eat anybody. It's just a nickname that nobody else was using, I guess. It doesn't really fit her. But I guess she's still going to try to get it over. But yeah, and but Brandon, this is more like just a showcase for Giselle Shaw is fine. Maybe just not at Savannah Evans' expense. Although the way they set up the story, whose else expense could it be? Because the whole idea is like, where's Tasha Steelz? Where's Tasha Steelz? Tasha walked off last week. Where's Tasha Steelz? It's like the ending of Street Fighter 2. Where is Tasha? So, that's where we're at with this. So it's kind of unfortunate, but once again, Savannah has to eat it.
That was pretty much my exact notes, is like, you could have accomplished this without sacrificing Savannah Evans, because she's the one who really needs to be more protected, because she's the monster heel, yet she's actually taken more bumps and was not even really protected in the match at all. I think Jay should have gotten a lot more involved. Like, it should have been like Giselle keeping her down, but then anytime Savannah got back up, Jay would just cause a distraction, right back up, and then go to the finish.
Right. Yeah, that's their version of protecting. Well, she's gonna rake your eyes, so it's okay if you lose, right? You got your eyes raked, you can't see. Yeah. So that's their. All right, now I don't even know how to. As I was watching this, I was like, I don't know how to take notes on this to recap it. I don't feel like trying to explain everything that happens here. But essentially, Kenny. So let me try. Like I can explain it. I just didn't want to take notes on it. It would have been like 10 paragraphs. So Kenny King walks in, and these two marks are standing there, and they're like, "Rich Swann, do you see her about Rich? This is the worst dialogue you hear. Hear about Rich Swann? Yeah, you won that six shooter challenge last week, man. Like who? What the fuck are you talking about? Who would talk about anything like this?
That would not be a real conversation. No.
No. And they're eating the Jonas Brothers popcorn. So Kenny King comes in and takes it away from him and starts eating it, and then he does a spit take with it when he finds out they're talking about Rich Swann, because everybody should be talking about King, right? And it's hard to do a spit take with popcorn, so I'll give props to Kenny King. He's so talented. Yeah, so then he moves on. And then he runs into Zicky Dice and Johnny Swinger, and they steal some of his popcorn while they're arguing with him about whatever else. And then he goes to Santino and says he's gonna do something with Santino. And I was just like, what? This is almost entertaining, but it was so like I have no idea how to describe this to anybody to see what point they were trying to get across. Chris, what did you see?
Basically, Kenny King doesn't want anyone talking about anyone other than Kenny King.
Fair.
Yeah, that it's sort of the way that it came across there is just egomaniac, and I mean, who doesn't love a good egomaniac in the professional wrestling world? Or a cult. Hey, egomaniacs and cults. That's what wrestling is just completely filled with.
The cult of King. It's coming.
Yeah. Why not? I would actually be entertained by Kenny King starting a cult that's all about how awesome Kenny King is. That would actually be a little different and a little fun. Yeah, as far as this segment goes, it's funny. It was sort of meant to just sort of get across the idea that I don't want anybody talking about anybody other than me. Everyone should be focused on me. I'm awesome. Swinger, you're an idiot. And anytime they can point out how much of an idiot Swinger is on TV, that's just awesome to me. It points to Johnny Swinger for just running with this and making, I mean, what, at this point, 1.5 years, almost 2 years worth of like really funny content out of it. So, good for him. And I didn't mind the segment. It was basically just Kenny King saying, hey, if you're not talking about me, go fuck yourself.
And there's actually an ongoing angle right now with Johnny Swinger where if he wins 50 matches, he gets a title shot.
Well,
he has won 0 matches.
That's great.
Just to catch you up.
That's perfect. We need more of that in professional wrestling in general. Like, people forget that you can get over by losing as long as you tell the story right, because Johnny Swinger, you can say whatever you want about him. He's over. People watch this show and they talk about Johnny Swinger. He gets mentions online. He gets talked about by people because he is genuinely entertaining. And I mean, if he were to go on a 50, match win streak, it would look bad. It wouldn't go well with the actual story that they've been telling about him. It's great. Sometimes the losing streak is exactly what a character needs.
Well, the Canadians love Johnny Swinger. Jesus Christ. We're going to have to cut your mic if you keep putting Johnny Swinger over like that.
Well, there's also an interesting caveat to the thing, too, is he didn't say 50 in a row.
Right. So just 50 over time. It'll take a long time for Johnny Swinger to win 50 matches, especially since it's been like 2 months since he said that and he hasn't won one yet. So, but yeah, what I got out of this basically is maybe I should try this Jonas Brothers popcorn, because if they're liking it enough to be jamming their hands into the bag and then still eating after people do that, then it's got to be something good. So maybe next Impact Attack, I'll have a bag here and we'll do a live taste test. And hopefully I won't have to spit any of it out. So that's before the break. Then after the break, with the lights blatantly on the floor, like in plain view of the main camera, so you can see what's up. Now they actually did it creative this time because I think this is the one where they have like it looks like a bunch of like blank frames on the wall or something. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but they put a red and blue alternating spotlights on each one just so that there's a little bit of it gives the illusion of some color and interior decoration here. But you can see the lights right there. So Santino tries to sell Kenny King on. He puts Kenny King in a match with Swinger, and he's selling it like he's doing Kenny King a favor. So there you go. Kenny seems to agree. Then Burt Macklin comes in, makes his case for why the number one contenders match should be a triple, or the championship match should be a triple threat, right? He's like, well, I beat the guy who beat the guy, so I should be in the match. And Santino's like, no. But in so many Santino words. But he says he's gonna have a 4 singles matches, and the winners of those 4 singles matches will be in a 4-way match, and the winner of the 4-way match will be the number one contender. All right. So then Dirty Dango comes in, and he kind of makes his own case for being not only a deputy but anything to get in the qualifying match. But he's already in a qualifying match. So then he fucks off. So this is just an excuse for everybody to goof off again. Brandon, did you enjoy the goofing off?
Anytime we get to see Santino having fun backstage with people, it's going to be a good time.
All right. Chris, we've added Santino to the mix here.
Great. Wonderful.
But we need to see him fuck somebody up to show that this guy actually can hurt somebody.
Yeah, have him pull out some judo moves or something. He's a legit guy. He actually knows some stuff. Also Canadian, so good for him. And as far as this went, it seems like, and now like having listened to you guys sort of talk about last week and everything too, it seems like Santino is having, maybe, I don't know if he's having trouble or if the people around him are having trouble just not remembering what they're supposed to say, or if things are being written really poorly. I mean, this guy comes in, he says, I want to be, in the number one contender match. You're already in the number one contender match. It's like, well then, how did he not fucking know that? What, like, that just comes across as somebody not knowing their own business. It's like, let's try to make it a little more, give the guy a reason to actually be talking. Because, I mean, I want to be in the number one contender match. You're already in the number one contender match. All right, bye. Okay.
Well, I think what may not come across, when we're explaining it, I think is that the subtle genius of Santino Marella is that he's making this look like he's just making this up on the spot. Like he didn't know there was going to be a number one contender match. He didn't know there was going to be a fatal 4-way. He never knows what he's going to do until somebody gets in his face and demands something, and then he makes up. It's like he's excusing his way out of it. Like, oh, you didn't know I was going to make 4 singles. Like that's
okay.
That if you put it in that context of his, it wouldn't work if you had a straight-laced character doing this. Then it would just be like, okay, you're bad at communicating to your talent. But how many wrestling shows show up? I mean, look, as far as we as fans know, everybody just shows up to the building, not in kayfabe, and has no idea what they're doing right as the show goes on the air. They have to go out there and cut their own promos to make matches and book themselves and all this other stuff. We see it all the time. And sometimes, if we're lucky, Adam Pearce makes it official. But most of the time, they're just like, all right, let's go. A referee is now running down the ramp. So, in that sense, this is kind of like, this is more like a more realistic version of that. Like where a guy is like, I don't know, a fatal 4-way match or something, like people, he's just trying to get people out of his face. I think that's how you have to look at it.
And hey, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. If that's what they're doing, then yeah, good on them. It is something a little different, and that might have just been something that I missed, having not been following Impact for the last, however long Santino's been there. But yeah, I actually, I like it if that's what they're doing, because it is something that it tells a story about something that is a trope in wrestling that a lot of people who watch wrestling notice, right? So if this is a way to subvert the expectations, but in a good way, good for them.
Yeah, that's how, at least that's how I have to justify it to myself. Just like Santino justifies things on the spot, I'm justifying it on the spot as you bring it up, because I know from firsthand experience that Santino is a comedic genius. So I know he's just that kind of a guy, to be able to try to, he's got chicken salad and lemonade franchises all over Canada and the US. So trust me, they're probably giving him the lamest stuff, but they also know they're like, Jimmy Jacobs is not going to write for Santino Marella. You can't do that. He's gonna do that. So they may give him very light direction on his bullet points, and then expect him to concoct some foolishness around it, and he'll definitely do that every time.
There's a line he says later that when we get to it, it's yeah.
All right, let us know. All right, but first, we're gonna watch Crazy Steve versus Sheldon Jean again. Sheldon Jean is back. This kid shouldn't even be walking after what Jonathan Gresham did to his knee last week, which wasn't even in real time. It wasn't even last week. It would have been hours beforehand, probably. But here he is, like nothing ever happened, like just in this match with Crazy Steve. So. He also has a giant lump on his chest, which I don't know if you guys noticed, but he might want to get that checked out. It looked like, when like somebody gets a mouse on their forehead, like in a fight or something. Well, it looked like that, but on like his collarbone area. And I was like, oh, I hope that doesn't burst or something. Did you notice that, Brandon?
I did not, but yeah, anytime you got a lump, you want to get that checked out immediately.
Check out the lump. I know we're like almost all the way around the calendar for breast cancer awareness, but you still might want to just be aware if you have some breast cancer or something, Sheldon. But yeah, I'm sure I don't need to tell him that. There's no way you could look in the mirror without seeing it, even if you have a shirt on. So, yeah, this was just a get over for Crazy Steve, which that doesn't happen often. Usually Crazy Steve's the get over. And then after the hits the Belladonna's Kiss, which I don't even know the name of his finisher because he's never won a match before. Then Trey Miguel runs out. He posts Taurus, and then he tries to get Steve. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. So yeah. Brandon, Trey Miguel has never looked more like a child than he did on this particular seg here. He really did in regular street clothes. He just looked like a child running out there and trying to tag Crazy Steve or whatever bullshit he's doing.
Dude, I like Sheldon. I think he's a good worker. He's got his character down pat. Like, he's one of the first workers I can think of in a long time who's given me a decent idea of who he is just from 2 matches.
Even though one of his matches has got his knee dislocated. At the very least, he should have had it taped for this.
And that's stuff that can be worked on.
Yes, he's going to need his knee worked on, because I'm telling you, Jonathan Gresham really fucked his knee up. It was grisly. I mean, it was in a working way, Chris, in a working way. Yeah. But if I don't think you saw it, but like he did this spot where he was like on the mat, and like Gresham was on the mat and Sheldon was standing up, and he put like the S grip around his leg and just pulled it inwards. So he immediately fell to the ground and clutched his knee and started screaming. And then Gresham hit him with a forearm. It was the most anticlimactic, but possibly realistic finish I've seen in a while. So that was weird. And then he's just out here like, hey, I'm fine. No, I'm good. No, it's all right.
Yeah. Instead, he's selling his clavicle, so that's cool.
Ouch, my clavicle. All right. Well, what else did you see from this match, Chris? Because
yeah,
Come on.
I mean, it was a quick one. It was sort of a get over match for Crazy Steve. I like seeing Crazy Steve, win. I like seeing Crazy Steve work. It always impresses me considering, his vision problems and everything, what he's able to do, and just how crisp he's able to still be. I mean, he's better than 80% of the AEW roster, and he can't see. So that should tell you something.
It tells me something. All right. Anything else on this? The post match? Anything else you guys want to comment on? No. Okay. All right. Next is Jordan Grace with Gia and no music underneath. They address the Mickie James tap out again. So it's a real thing. Now on the pay-per-view, Chris, Mickie James' last match or last rodeo, where it was either win or go home forever. There was a weird spot in the match where Jordan had her in something. I don't even remember what it was now. And Mickie kind of did like the quick double tap. You've probably seen this watching MMA with guys, that's that's all it takes. And the referee's on it. Some of it's like, possibly a legit tactic to get him to let go early, like a fake tap, almost like that the ref might not see, just to get out of a hold. But the announcers didn't do the usual pro wrestling thing where they're like, they lose their shit of like, oh my God, Mickie James tap. Like they didn't mention it. Nobody saw it. I brought it up. It didn't seem like it was part of the thing, but I didn't know why else it would be there. I didn't know why else Mickie would do it. It was very subtle, but I caught it. And now they are making it a thing. So it's that was well done that they didn't, oversell it with the well, they didn't sell it at all with the announcing. So, and usually if pro wrestling shows restraint, and with a lot of the stuff Impact does, they don't. So you wouldn't imagine they would do it here either. But that's what she was talking about. And now Jordan Grace says like, well, Steph DeLander's coming in here next week, so I want a piece of that. So apparently Jordan Grace knows who this is, or at least she's pretending she does. Maybe she just saw the promo package like we did and was like, psh, who's so that could be she's just as miffed as we are that we're supposed to know who this is and she wants to beat her up. Either way, look forward to that. Any comments on this, Brandon, first?
I'm surprised they're actually keeping that story going.
Yep.
But then why is she being distracted with this newcomer when she should be like, no, you tapped out. I should still be the champion. That should be her sole focus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Chris, this is the great Jordan Grace.
Yeah. Wonderful. Listen, I really like when they do subtle things in professional wrestling, and I'm going to tell you. I boxed for about 15 years, right? And
Okay.
my favorite boxer to watch was actually a guy that most people considered very boring. His name was Bernard Hopkins. Now,
the Executioner.
Hopkins, yes, the Executioner. Now, listen, I actually think that he missed out on his real calling for a nickname. He should have called himself the Textbook, because Bernard Hopkins, watching his fights, he was not fast. He was not strong. He was not going to knock anybody out. What he was going to do, though, if you were a fan of the game, if you were a real student of boxing, he was going to show you something every match where you watched it and you went, that's fucking brilliant. One of the things that he was able to do is like he said, and I quote one time, and I love this quote. He said, "If you're not cheating, you're not trying." And one of the things that he was able to do is like he would throw low blows, but he would position his opponent in such a way that the referee was to his opponent's back before he threw it. So you couldn't see, the referee couldn't see that this guy's getting hit in the balls, right? Like you do things like that. And in MMA, it's very similar, like what you were talking about, that the light tap, right? You do that when the referee is looking away. You do that when you're in a position where the referee can't see your hand. So instead of tapping, on the top of the head where the referee's over here, you tap on the neck where the referee can't see you, right? You do that, and then sometimes you can get somebody to let go. Now, Why in kayfabe that was happening, I have no idea. But that is a really nice little subtle storytelling, and I love when professional wrestling focuses on that, because who can tell a subtle story better than professional wrestling if they want to? Nobody.
Yeah, and also nobody calls Jordan Grace great. I was being ironic, and Buckshot Kid knows that. So, yeah. All right. Well, since you brought up, let's just talk real quick. The most boring boxer of all time. Go.
Probably Willie Pep.
There is a right answer here. I don't think Brandon is big of a boxing fan, so
That's
probably
right.
not going to contribute to it. But the correct answer of most boring boxer of all time is Pernell Whitaker, hands down. Everybody, put your hands down. Nobody's more boring than Pernell Whitaker. So anyway,
But another guy, you could watch Pernell Whitaker matches, and you could always get something out of what he was doing. He was a very
a nap
defensive fighter.
You could get a nap out of it. I don't want to see defensive fighters. Why would you get into a profession where you're supposed to throw hands at a human being only to bob and weave out of the way for 36 minutes? It's ridiculous. Fuck. Punch sometimes. So yeah.
Corey Spinks was significantly worse. I think he had 40 fights and like 4 knockouts or something like that. He was a very good fighter. I mean, he won a lot of matches, but awful to watch.
Yeah. Well, it happens. So Santino finds Raven sitting at a table somewhere. And, or Ravana, I think he called him. Is that what he called him? Ravana. He wants advice from the genius. And Raven's genius advice is, make me the champ.
As it is.
Yeah. And then, Santino, I guess, is going to take that under advisement. And then Ron Reese walks in, and I only know this is Ron Reese because he's a gigantic man, and who else would it be? But except a guy possibly pretending to be Ron Reese, which is hard to do because nobody else is like 8'7". So he's like, "Are we getting the flock back together?" And then Raven calls him the Yeti and dismisses him. So, yeah, this was a thing where Raven was still there from showing up for Mickie James's last match, and they decided to get some footage. So that's why he's here. Raven, the great Raven. Chris, Raven.
Hey,
Ravana.
He's funny. I like Raven. I like listening to what he has to say about professional wrestling. And if he's allowed to be kind of tongue-in-cheek on a show, I like his inclusion on a show. He's fun. He's entertaining. He's one of those guys who you don't take super seriously, so he can work as kind of a slight comedy figure. And this was good for me. I was happy with it. I liked it.
Well, if you like this, you're gonna love his match commentary. Raven on commentary. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the use of him here in the line of just make me the champ. That got a laugh out of me.
Right. Yeah, Raven. He's a genius. So specifically not a genius, Bully Ray comes out for an in-ring promo, and he starts doing his thing about how I'm getting the feeling that people around here don't like me, and everybody's booing. Mickie James interrupts. She's paying back what he did the previous week. They're telling a story here between Bully and Mickie, besides what's going on with them, but they're also talking about Tommy Dreamer. And the story they're telling about Tommy Dreamer is that he and Bully don't get along, or never got along, or he tolerates Tommy Dreamer. They coexist. Brandon, that's not the story they were telling us.
Nope.
When they were leading up to this whole, did Bully Ray really change his stripes, or is he the same Bully Ray he always did when Bully Ray was baby facing everybody and trying to make them think, no, why does everybody hate me? They talked about how good of friends that Tommy Dreamer and him were, and how Tommy Dreamer's his only friend, and Tommy Dreamer's always had his back. Now all of a sudden, Bully's just saying, like, we've never got along or whatever. And Mickey comes out and is like, that's right, you never got along. Now, if Bully's saying it and he's lying because now the shoe's on the other foot, then he's the asshole. But if Mickey confirms it, then that means that they're just bad at writing. Because if she came out and said, like, I don't know what you're talking about, you and Tommy Dreamer have been friends forever, and you fucked him over. Like, that's what she should be saying. If she's agreeing with what he's saying, then that means he's probably telling the truth, because why else would you agree with him? And then you just completely unraveled your entire storyline that you built up to with Josh Alexander and all that other stuff. So just in a couple of short sentences, you fucking ruined why are you even here? The only reason you're even here is to work these couple of programs here. And he's probably going to be gone after this. I don't see Bully Ray sticking around Impact for a long term. Probably want to work with Josh Alexander, do one more thing with Tommy, and get out. And now he's made both of these things kind of pointless. I know nobody really cares, because if they really cared, they're going to watch regardless. So that this wouldn't be the thing to turn you off of an Impact episode. But
it's the difference between something that being good and something being great. I mean, the little subtle variations on what's said when by whom. I mean, it really is the difference between something being watchable, which, I mean, Impact is a watchable show. It's easy to digest. It really is. I mean, as a 2-hour show, I was actually kind of shocked watching it. I just kept thinking, I don't want to turn my TV off, which is something that I often think when I'm watching AEW. Spoilers for anybody who's going to tune into the PWC and hear me.
Hey, wait a minute though. You make those AEW shows sound fun, so you don't have to watch AEW to enjoy Rampage, Uncaged, and the Dynamite, the Skirmish. Yeah, Wednesday Night Skirmish.
Absolutely, but the difference between a show being watchable and a show being really good is those subtle little things, right? You're right. If Bully comes out and he says, we've never really gotten along, and et cetera, you can play that off as either A, heels lie, he's supposed to lie, or B, he's a real heel and he's just been using this guy and he's not really his friend. You can do that, but if you then back it up with the babyface coming out and going, yeah, you've never gotten along because you're a jerk face or something. It brings the whole story to a completely different place where it's now kind of lopsided and doesn't make a lot of sense for those people like you or me or Brandon or the people who are watching wrestling with a real eye for storytelling, right? We can see the subtle differences. We can see the subtle differences between something that would have been great and something that's just kind of okay or good.
Well, you just summed up Impact.
Yeah, like this whole thing just felt like the direction they're going with this whole where they were never really friends. Just like that just completely dumps on that one segment they had where Tommy cut that like impassioned promo where he ended his friendship with Bully, and they did the whole thing of where he's oh, you call me a bitch, you're the one crying on TV.
Right. Yeah. Why? If you guys were never friends, why is Tommy crying?
Yep.
So maybe because somebody ate his bag lunch or whatever that he brought, but
somebody ate his third bag lunch. Now he only has 2.
Who would eat 20 sack lunches?
Yeah.
I'll tell you who. It was that damn Yeti.
That damn Yeti. Yeah. So anyway, words turn to violence. We've had enough of this. It's time to beat up women now. So he picks up Mickie James for a scoop slam and sure the hell slams her. I swear, when this happened, I just thought he was going to hold her until somebody ran out the back. But thankfully, he slammed her. So that was very enjoyable. And then of course, after that, like all of the whole locker room pours out to help Mickie James and runs down there. All her friends and security and everybody. Just kidding. That didn't happen. Only Tommy Dreamer came out. No one else cares about Mickie James. No one else hates Bully Ray. He didn't screw everybody over in this one short impact run so far. So nobody wanted to go out there and get a piece of him. he's inexplicably even still has a job. They could just fire him if they don't like him so much. They probably didn't want him to be there in the first place. You can't say he's drawing any significant revenue. They're not even trying to come up with a flimsy excuse why you could still be there. So he can cripple Scott D'Amore to the point that they had to bring Santino Marella in to take his place, and he just gets to walk around working there and threatening Santino and other things. This is the other thing where it's like, even, we acknowledge that pro wrestling, the WWE forced us to acknowledge officially that pro wrestling was maybe not on the up and up like 30 some years ago. But they don't have to keep beating us over the head with it every chance they get. They could pretend the shit is real, at least a little bit. So anyway, but yeah, no, Tommy Dreamer comes out, and then the good hands come out. This is just long story short, and it is a long story. Santino makes Mickey and Tommy versus the good hands as a match for next week. So. More on the fly booking from Santino. And that's what we get there.
And this is where Santino had the line of the night where he said that he's going to drop the hammer and put the Thor back in authority.
Yes, good line. Cheesy though it may be, but Santino can only do those kind of things. Hatebot asked, does Tommy Dreamer get a kendo stick pass? He does. He doesn't get a pass in general from me, but I don't know, Chris, I don't know if we talked about it. I disavow any appearance of kendo stick. As soon as a kendo stick appears in a scene, it's disavowed by me, and I don't comment further on the situation. However, if somebody makes that a gimmick, then it's allowed. I'm more thinking of like when it just appears under the ring, like they just store that, like they store extra tools and equipment under the ring, like, and a kendo stick in case anybody wants to practice sword fighting.
For what actual reason would there be a fucking kendo stick underneath the ring? What is that being used for? Like in kayfabe, what is that being used for under the ring? Why was that there? It's still better than a lot of stuff that you see in AEW. They've got one Japanese girl who comes down to the ring with a sword. I mean, if you're gonna bring it, fucking use it. Well,
in these anything goes matches, why would you pick the most ineffective weapon to use? And I don't imagine those are easy to get. I mean, you don't just walk into your local Harbor Freight and get a kendo stick, a tiki torch maybe, but you probably just don't. These don't just lie around. I assume you have to custom order them or something. But anyway, I just also want to acknowledge Liz here. She showed up early. She's stepped off a plane and logged right in to watch us on Impact Attack. So Liz back from her Texas excursion where she went to go see the Royal Rumble and provide us a full report, which you can hear in its entirety on the Next Level Wrestling Review, channelattitude.com. Please go give it a listen if you haven't. Anyway, yeah. Anything else to add to this horrendous 45-minute long segment with Bully Ray and where he ruined his entire angle? No?
Way too long.
Yep. Way too long. This one got to me a little bit. This was the one part of the show where I was kind of like, okay, fuck, shut up already.
Yeah.
And another thing, too, is where'd he go with the good hands when Bully's done?
Nowhere. They're just
You don't
good
have to go
hands.
Anywhere with them because they're good hands.
Yeah, that's right. They'll be there to do the Kevin Knight thing, take the falls, which is fine. But yeah, all right. So here's where we get Killa Kelly, if you will, with she's talking about Taylor, and then the People's Witch, Taylor Wilde, with music underneath. That's why I always have to. That's Chris. That's why I always have to signify that, because sometimes there is music underneath the promos. So I just, sometimes they score a promo, and it's, it's no Hans Zimmer, it's no John Williams, it's no Jerry Goldsmith. It's just whoever they got. But yeah. So the Death Dolls teleport in. and everyone laughs. And this is why. If you don't watch Impact, things like this might probably be why. Because of this.
I didn't mind this. I mean,
what the fuck? They teleported in.
I know, but like, I don't like. Listen, I'm not one of these people that says like funny doesn't draw money and all this other kind of stuff. I think comedy can have a place on a wrestling card, and this was just a little funny, stupid little thing. I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous, but I mean, I don't know. Is it more ridiculous than no security coming out to save your woman's champion from Bully Ray? Like, is
interdimensional
it
travel on camera? Yes.
Is it a lot
yes, it
more
is.
ridiculous? Like, I don't know. I think
yes, it's a lot more ridiculous.
I think sometimes you can embrace the silliness with wrestling, and sometimes wrestle crap can be good. This wasn't good, but it also didn't make me want to turn the TV off either. I just kind of gave it a chuckle and went, "Okay, that's ridiculous," but Impact.
Only because it didn't last long enough. If
If
lasted
this
any
was
longer,
45 minutes, yeah, this would have been, curtains. But I mean, this was, how long did this take? Less than 3 minutes?
Well, yeah, they teleported. They didn't have to travel.
Right.
They better. Well, okay, so this is what I always say. I would expect them to use that in their matches because it gives them a significant advantage. At any point that they're being pinned, they can just teleport out. And this is fucking stupid. All right, Brandon, anything to add to this?
No, this is more of what I want to see out of the Death Dolls as far as like the content and what they're doing with each other in the interactions. Like in this situation, before what we're seeing was like it was Jessica and Taya. They were more like it was in their element, and Rosemary was kind of the more uncomfortable, awkward one, and being irritated by them being bubbly, cheery, wanting to go out drinking. Whereas now it's kind of like the other way around, where they're doing something creepy, spooky, and now it's Taya and Jessica's turn to be kind of like, okay, this is weird for us. We're out of our element, but we're still here for our friends.
Yes.
Like you notice how, like when they were laughing, it was basically kind of that like
right, which is what we'd all be doing if we were there. And
I would politely just get the fuck out.
Just get it. Yeah, I quit.
Okay.
I'm going to AEW.
You teleported me. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I don't know what's going on. Fuck this place.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you want a friend that can transport you anywhere instantly?
I would. I've been waiting for this. I hate travel. All wrestlers like this, they probably don't have to. That's the great thing about teleporting, right? No travel, no baggage checking, no customs, no, it's great. The smartest thing Candace Spaceman ever said, what makes all TV wrestling shows better is pizza, wings, and snacks. Yes, that is right. I did not have any while I was watching this. Wait, did I? Oh, actually, no, I did, because after watching them eat that Jonas Brothers popcorn, I went and popped a bag. It wasn't Jonas Brothers, but it was whatever I had laying around, so I enjoyed some popcorn there. So I did have a snack, and I guess it was a little better. So next is Swinger versus the Kinger, and this is it is exactly what it was going to be, and Kenny cuts a promo after. So Brandon, any notes on this one?
Man, I thought they could have kept the Kenny King, Mike Bailey stuff going, and this could have been a creative spot to give Swinger one of his 50 wins.
Hell no. Anyway, Chris?
I haven't seen it before. Maybe this is something he's been doing for a while, but his entrance on that mini ring was, that was chef's kiss for me. I loved that.
Yeah, when did he start? He did that for some reason. He started using the miniature WrestleMania 3 cart on like a bigger show, I think.
Yeah, and I might have been Bound for Glory.
Yeah, something like that, where there was like a little bit of circumstance and pageantry to it, and then he just kept it because why not? Like, you already built the fucking thing, you might as well just keep it. So
there was one time I want to say, was it when they were coming out. They come out one side of the stage, and all of a sudden Moose's music hit, and they just went like, "Fuck this!" right at the other side.
Yes, that was good. Man, if only we had some Moose on here really class up these proceedings. But instead, we get Johnny Swinger. But Canadians love Johnny Swinger, so I mean, at least Chris was entertained.
I was.
And then we get Bully and Masha. Masha. Bully creepily tries to butter Masha up, and she cuts a promo on him in Russian, and Bully just goes, "Oh, Masha." So this was fine, except for this is where the whole hashtag turn off the lights comes in. This is the kind of things that got me to start that in the first place. And I thought there was like a temporary like a ceasefire or whatever at the beginning of the year, but clearly the war is back on. So that was the only thing I didn't like about this, was this gross pink light just sitting in the background shining on it. Like,
I'm telling you, man, it was Demore's like, all right, we're listening, we're gonna get rid of the lights. As soon as he was gone and Santino took over, they were back.
Yeah, bring back the lights. It's one of his decrees. So yeah, this was Chris. We didn't see enough Bully earlier, but at least this is furthering something and making it somewhat interesting without being overly pro wrestling and phony, because everything he said was just in the context of, it would work whether it's a shoot or, in kayfabe. So, yeah, what'd you think of it?
This was a lot more palatable. Like you said, it was sort of quick to the point. It was clear what was being said. I mean, even if you don't speak Russian, you kind of got what she was saying. You kind of got the context of like why she was saying what she was saying and what Bully Ray was doing there. And yeah, it was quick enough. And Bully Ray's a talented worker. If he's given something small enough, he's going to get it over just fine. And it definitely made me want to see this girl. What's her name? Masha. It made me want to see her more.
Masha Slamovich. Yes. She's actually really good. One of the highlights of Impact that wasn't Moose was Masha going on a big win streak, only for Jordan Grace to end it, which sucked. But nonetheless, she's really good. She's kind of like the shoot version of Allison Bree's Glow character,
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of how that is.
Classic.
Yes, classic. Yeah. So, and she speaks English. She just wanted to do her promo in Russian. So yeah, anything else to add to this, Brandon? No. All right. Hatebot said something about Kenny King earlier.
They did add subtitles to her promos. I really did it one time with that one interview with Gia. That actually made that interview so much better and helped us understand like so much more of her character and her motivation.
Right. Anyway, yeah. So Hatebot said, when he was talking about Kenny King's thing earlier, he said, should the heel really be doing a babyface tribute risk gimmick here? I thought we're supposed to like Kenny King. Look, some things transcend this fucking bullshit pro wrestling. He didn't call attention to it. That was his friend. It's ridiculous to assume that he shouldn't be doing something like that. But anyway, yeah. Next is, okay. The major players. They make a, I guess, when Chris, as a rap aficionado, that when someone makes a diss track or whatever, then you got to come back with the, what do they call it?
Well, you got to clap back.
Clap back is the term, yeah. But do they have a name for the answer track?
No, not really. I mean, it's generally just you come back with your own general rules in hip hop also, and I wish people would remember this. It's you make your diss, the other guy makes their diss. You leave it alone after that. You can't just be continuing to go and then say, well, my third one was better than your second one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's here's the diss. That's the fucking that's
Let
how
the
it
people
goes.
decide.
That's right. LL Cool J, he came at Cannabis with that diss on 4321, and Cannabis came back with his track. And I mean, yes, I think that the reply that LL Cool J came back with on Rip the Jacker was probably better, but that doesn't count in hip hop. It's, you already made your diss, he made a reply, that's what you're supposed to go off of in hip hop. So just making that clear.
Right. You hear that, LL Cool J? You've been running around with the crime investigating unit so long you don't know how to do rap anymore. Listen to this white Canadian.
That's right.
But anyway, but yeah. So this would be the clapback. Major players, because Joe Hendry made a song about them being Edge's bitch, which I don't think you probably went back and found that little video or anything, but it was very entertaining, as Joe Hendry tends to be. Which, again, the other good thing on the show, not on the show. We barely got anything good on this. It was like no Moose, one picture of Joe Hendry's face, if that's enough. We don't just like him for his face, so that's really not enough. Masha just standing there cutting one Russian promo on Bully Ray. I don't know. I'm out of things to like on Impact, so we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But so the major players premiere their video, where Zack Ryder, whatever. No one could rap this bad on accident, so it's got to be he also must be a genius, like on the Santino level. I wouldn't doubt it. He kind of knows what's up. I like him. So so they start with an audience, and then when the video's over, everybody's gone. Or
with each of his disses, you got Brian Myers in the back just going like,
right, yeah, doing that thing. The gif where the guy like, yeah. So there you go. So Brandon, do you think this was a sufficient clapback to Edge's bitch?
For their characters and their gimmicks, yes, this worked.
That is correct. And Chris, this would have been more enjoyable if you had seen the other things, but I mean, you still basically get it. Right?
Oh yeah, this was great. This was a clear example of sometimes wrestle crap is fantastic. This, I mean, what's more wrestle crap than a poorly rapped clapback, by two white guys, mad about being called Edge's bitch. Like, what is more wrestle crap than that? And I mean, it was done perfectly. Again, for the characters, I didn't even have to have seen the original, diss track to get how funny this was. So. Good job.
Right. And once again, just to remind everybody, the original diss track was not what you would call a diss track in anything other than name, because it was not rap. It was sung to the tune of "Heaven is a Place on Earth." So, yes, there you go. And then finally, we get our main event match, which is we've already talked about earlier in the show. We set this up. This is step 4. Step 4 is for Callahan to win this match. That, we didn't know when he first told Callahan was going to have to take 7 steps. We didn't know this match was ever going to happen. So how it was step 4 in this grand plan, I don't know. But I guess he just sees the future. Maybe he got a reading from Taylor Wilde. Maybe she flipped some cards over and told him what matches were going to happen or whatever it was. But anyway, it's Josh Alexander, Frankie Kazarian, Rich Swann, Yuya Uemura versus The Design with Callahan. He's with because they haven't let him in officially yet as part of The Design. This is I'll go with Chris again with a talent evaluation. So we got these guys in this match. When you watch an 8-man, a 6-man, a 10-man, whatever you watch, it's kind of just like it's almost like a microcosm for how I look at wrestling, where we're done watching good wrestling. It's not going to happen anymore. Like, we're not going to watch a good wrestling show. Like, we're not going to watch Monday Night Raw and be like, that was a great episode. There are going to be there never was. In retrospect, I've learned as a wrestling fan that wrestling was never good, and we're just stupid for liking it. But there were high peaks that were so high that you couldn't see the valley. So those are the times that we cling to this bullshit for our entire lives and just hope to get a taste of once again. So you really have to take your wrestling these days. My advice is you take it a la carte. You watch a wrestler you like, and you're just going to have to accept the fact that they're going to be on a show you don't like, probably doing things you don't like, but at least they're so good at what they're doing, they make it entertaining to watch. I'll take a Moose here. I'll take a MJF over here. I'll take a Becky Lynch over here. Whatever, like whoever I personally like to watch. Like I just accept what they're doing in a vacuum, and I just realize there will never be good wrestling TV episodes ever again, ever. So that's kind of how I look at to the multi-man tags and stuff. It's like, well, I get to see some people, so what am I going to see in it? I'll just concentrate on their portion if I like them or whatever. And that's, sometimes there's nobody. But anyway, that's my preface for you and your talent evaluation here.
You forgot to say his name.
Oh yeah, I didn't want him to appear since he doesn't feel like appearing.
Wait, who? What?
We believe that Joe Hendry might appear if we. Yeah. So anyway, all right, continue.
All right. In terms of talent evaluation, so there was definitely a number of guys on here that I've seen before that I like, that I think you could do something with. I like Connor. I think he's a good big man. I think he moves okay. I think that he needs to be a little more impactful. I think he's so big and so clearly strong that if he's not winning, if he's not dominating, it looks a little silly. Especially when some of the people on the other side of the ring are so small. Small Japanese guy looked like a small Japanese guy. I don't mean to be rude about that. I just mean,
yes, you do.
You
mean to be. I hear your shows. You definitely mean to be. You specifically write it into your comedic takes on things. I know what you're doing. You don't have to say that. Just say what you mean.
Okay. Well, I mean, small Japanese guy looks like small Japanese guy, which is, that's half of the people I've ever seen out of Japan just look like small Japanese guy. That okay, he can work. Can he talk?
Keep in mind, guys. He said he loves Diener.
Through this
guy looks like he eats Dieners for lunch, but he's the small Japanese guy. But anyway, continue.
Unfortunately, not every Japanese guy can be a giant like Masahiro Chono.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Or like that Take a Shitta guy from AEW. But yeah, listen. So there are some guys on here that I think are really talented. Josh Alexander, I really like his style. I know that people find him boring. Again, I think that, if you find Josh Alexander boring, it's probably because you don't like wrestling. You like the show more than you like actual wrestling. Josh Alexander is an excellent wrestler. He's the kind of guy who would fit in with that, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit sort of grouping there. Not that I'm comparing him to those two in terms of his talent in the ring, but he's that kind of wrestler. He's a wrestler. And I like him. I thought that he did a good job in this match too. And as far as basically everybody else in this match, I could sort of take him or leave him. I know that people really, really love Rich Swann. I've never been sold on Rich Swann as a top guy. He is entertaining. He is fun. I can see him in the middle of the card doing lots of fun stuff, but I've never taken him seriously as a top guy. I would say the same thing about Callahan. I'm not sold on him as being a real top guy, although he's very good at character. He's very good at getting, himself across, but I'm not sure I like the idea of him with this group either, because he's supposed to be kind of a top guy, but he needs this group that isn't full of top guys and isn't, why does this work if he's already sort of a top guy and they're not really a top group yet? They need to be actually giving him something to motivate him to want to join. But that's sort of my evaluation on the talent in this match. And it was, like you said, it wasn't like a great match. We weren't watching for the match, but you can definitely see the talent that shines out. And for me, it was probably, again, I like Diener. I think that he's much better off as a slightly confused babyface in a tag team somewhere. But these are sort of the guys that stood out to me, and not small Japanese guy. And whoever the tiny man in the dark in the heel team was, I don't know who that is, but I don't ever need to see him again.
Oh, you don't recognize Angels, formerly Alan Angels from AEW, the show that you often cover?
Oh,
You don't remember Alan Angels?
He's that little guy from the little group that's full of little people. Okay, he's the even littler guy from the little people group from AEW. Okay, yeah, I don't ever need to see him on my television screen ever again.
Well, they disagree. The design disagrees. All right, Brandon, what about you?
I would have liked to have seen, like, if we're trying to establish the design as this threat, like, they need to be more dangerous. They need to be more violent. Like, it should have just been them just dominating and destroying this makeshift team and leaving everybody laying at the end of the show. And basically with Diener getting in Callahan's face, making sure he's the one who does most of the damage.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, but then Callahan couldn't get the win because they probably get disqualified for all their horrible violence, right?
Well, I mean, post-match afterward. Like, get the win, then, like, just to leave everybody laying.
Ah, I see. All right. Anything
Make
else?
the group seem dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a crazy booking decision. Why would you even suggest that?
Dangerous is boring. Everybody's dangerous.
When
Go ahead.
when was the last time a heel faction has actually felt like dangerous and a threat in Impact or in wrestling in general?
Never. They've never felt dangerous. It always feels like fake wrestling. It's never once felt dangerous. Sorry. I mean, you want what you want, like what you would want a group like Violent by Design or the Design or whatever to do, where violence is implied in the name sometimes. What you would want them to do, or what you'd expect to see from them, is exactly what Damage Control did to Becky Lynch at the Royal Rumble. They just they just grab her, throw her into the fucking audience or whatever, and just beat the shit out of her and stuff like that. It's like everybody's doing that. No one can stand out by being the group of violent people now. Violence is just part and parcel of, whatever. Can you imagine if you went to your job and you're just trying to, get some coffee, and then your coworker comes and hits you with a chair, like, just for no reason, and nothing happens to them. They don't get fired, don't even get a talking to. They just get to go back to their desk and keep working. And you just got to hold that. Like, this is essentially where wrestling's at. And it's, it's getting to the point where we need to slow everything back down and make it more boring, because you're trying to manufacture excitement, and that doesn't work. You can't write excitement. What you do, Chris, and you're a writer, so you know this, what you do is you set things up, and the excitement comes when you pay it off. The excitement comes from the anticipation of the payoff. You don't just start paying things off the minute you come up with it. You're supposed to make people want to see it, and they don't.
It's every minute before the violence where you're really telling your story. The violence, it has to be the payoff to something. But again, like what you said, we need to slow down in professional wrestling in general. I mean, nothing drives me more crazy than when I'm watching a show, especially if it's a show like a Rampage or, a minor show where you're seeing guys taking pile drivers on the exposed concrete as a near fall. What the fuck happened to professional wrestling? That used to be a spot that you did if a guy was going away for 6 months. And that made sense. And then when you saw it, it fucking meant something. Because holy shit, did you see what happened on? Now you actually have to fucking injure a guy in order to get wrestling fans to talk. The last time I heard anybody go, "Oh God, did you see the fucking violence that happened?" was Big E legitimately breaking his fucking neck. nobody gives a shit about the fake violence in wrestling anymore because we're so inundated with it, and it's so every day, and it's so we start the fucking shows with blading each other and going through tables and fucking like you actually have to get back to wrestling, and then the violence will mean something again. But you actually have to slow down.
Remember when going through the announce table used to be a big deal? That used to be like a, oh shit, go off the air thing?
Yep.
Yes.
And now it's just the spot for the young bucks to flip through or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, the inordinate amount of time that people spend on tables, whether they're folding tables under the ring or like the announcer's desk or whatever, it's like, you guys, you got a perfectly good concrete floor right there. Why are you bothering with all this other bullshit? But yeah, I mean, this, but like I said, that's part of the reason why I say we will never see good wrestling TV shows ever again. We didn't see wrestling TV shows that were good before. We just thought we did, and we were younger and didn't know any better. And
for every Bret Hart segment, there was a Doink segment. Yeah, I mean,
that's right. And even Doink at this point, if you're going back to the 1993 Doink, like that is way more involved and character driven than any of the fucking bullshit that we have here. Like, Doink still wrestled, It wasn't just that he was a birthday clown that wandered into the wrong building. So, yeah, and you got the sense that also that Doink was a psychopath that did this for a reason. Like, he was already somebody, and he technically really was. So
yeah, like the whole clown thing was a psychological thing to screw with his opponent.
Right. So, but did anybody care about that? No, they just used Doink as a punchline because, like Chris does, because that's what it became later.
That's how it stands out.
Because clown for no reason. That's why. So, anyway, yeah, there's no helping wrestling, but in this match, the kid with a future, aka small Japanese guy. He gets this kid, I don't know if he's gonna be something, but he could be. He's got a certain look, he's got a certain build. He won't have a certain height, but neither does anybody in wrestling, so you can't really say that he's small in that sense. And he's not the smallest guy in this match either, but he gets pinned by a beanbag chair that decided to be a wrestler. So perfect. But at least there's a storyline reason for that. And Yuya Uemura is also in that situation like I described with Kevin Knight. He's here in America he's doing his overseas excursion and he's learning here. And then he'll go back to...
What was his name again?
Yuya Uemura.
Gesundheit.
Yes.
Anyway, continue.
That joke doesn't even work. But anyway, so...
It doesn't have to.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, the excursion, yes. So he'll go back to New Japan. He'll be whatever he's going to be. But for right now, he's trying out the whole, I'm just a handsome baby face in tights, and I'm going to probably lose matches. That's what he's here to do right now.
Getting his reps in.
Mm-hmm. And yeah. So that is the end of this Impact episode for February 2nd. I think I had more fun talking about it than I did watching it, even with the popcorn. But that's probably because I had two great partners on the side of the 6-man. We should go for the 6-man belts. What do you think? I don't think the Elite could stand a chance. I think we could beat the shit out of any or all three of those guys.
Fully confident that we could beat up the Elite. I'm
you want to go through a table? I'll put you through a table.
Yeah, but I'm 6'1". I'm 240 pounds. Like, I'm pretty confident I could beat up any one of those fucking guys.
That's right. Probably not Uemura, but I mean those guys for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Who can beat the coronavirus? Really.
That's their show and that's our show. We kind of covered it all. I had a lot of fun having Chris on here. And we're gonna definitely make sure that you tell people where they can find you, Chris. So you want to go ahead and do that now?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter. You can see it right there. At ChrisAms1, you can follow me. I'm often talking about wrestling or just weird political things that I find hilarious. The other day, I
The
was
Far
laughing.
Center, the Far Center with Chris Ames.
The Far Center is sort of my podcast baby. It's a podcast that I do where I talk about political issues of the day, and I try to talk about them from a centrist perspective. As a centrist, the other day just made my heart melt because AOC and that weird crazy lady who brings guns to Congress were arguing about which one of them was stupider, and I mean, it just warmed the cockles of my heart because God bless both of those crazy, crazy people.
And
But
on that
also-
note, your most recent episode was why you shouldn't why you shouldn't vote, or why you should be able to vote but you shouldn't necessarily vote. I don't remember what the exact title was, but that was
why
the gist
not
of it.
everyone should vote.
Right. Which
Yeah.
I've been saying for years, and people have always looked at me with a horrible expression when I say that. But I think more than ever these days, they may have come around to my way of thinking.
Yeah, if you don't give a shit about voting, don't. That's basically the gist of that podcast. But also, you can find me on the PWC and, of course, on Rampage Uncaged.
That's right. Right here on channelattitude.com.
Right here.
All right. Brandon, where do people find you?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at TransArchistTia, as well as Twitch at Miss Tia the Transarchist, and every Monday right here on the Impact Attack on Hameen Media Group. Whoop whoop.
Ooh, all right. And you guys can always find me on Hami Media Group in various and sundry places, such as this, of course, but you already knew that. And then you've got the Next Level Wrestling Review every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. For the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez. And this week it's going to be John Hartnett joining us again, because we were going to have who was it? Who canceled? Oh, Piers Austin. We were going to have Piers Austin back on again, but he wasn't able to make it. So John Hartnett's sliding in there. And then we've got some good guests lined up for the next couple weeks too, including the Andrew Bello coming on the 15th to talk about his mixtape that he dropped. If you guys haven't had a chance to listen to It's Saved by the Bello, his mixtape, so you can check that out on YouTube right now for free, totally free. Give his stuff a listen. He's a much better rapper than Matt Cardona. So if at least there, you're getting a chance to see what it really is supposed to look like when a white dude raps. Then you can find me on, I don't think you'll be able to find me on the Smack Attack much anymore. They may have got that covered, as the PWC's own Jimmy T was on with John Enright to talk SmackDown, and they did a good job. I was in the chat contributing a little bit, but glad to have that off my plate too. And let's see, where else can you find me? Possibly you can find me on every once in a while. You can find me on, what do you call, Wrestling with Rip Rogers, who does a Q&A every Friday, and except for the days when he doesn't do it on a Friday with him and Von Lilas. So you never know, I might pop in there and ask some questions in person. Been on there a couple times and it was great. Stevie Richards has the Stevie Richards Big Fitness Show with him and Big Mike Barons. So after you get done watching Next Level Wrestling Review on Wednesday, you can just go right to his Stevie Richards channel and he'll have a new episode. But of course, you can listen to it on all your favorite podcast listening platforms as well. And the last episode, they talked about fad diets. So that could be interesting for those of us who are like, they see all these things and you hear people saying, oh, this works for me and this works for, you can go check that out and see what they think about it. Very enlightening. And of course, all the social media platforms at Opinion Haver, including twitch.tv/Opinion Haver, where you can watch me stomp my way through the Dead Space remake or any other various games. I think that's just about it. So for Chris and Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.